Hello and welcome back to the West Ham United rebuild, and I'm not going to be around the bush. There's the Europa Conference League game for us to play today to round off the season. I very much expect us to get there, barring any major drop-downs from the Europa League. Thankfully, we avoided that. The highest caliber team that we had to deal with were Freiburg and Nantes, and both of those were dispatched relatively easily in the end. Of course, we last met at the start of January, edging Arsenal late on. We followed that with wins against Palace and Arsenal, Newcastle in the league, getting our revenge of that FMing earlier on. Man United proved a problem, Manchester City proved a problem in the FA Cup later on, and then February happened. Don't know what happened there. It all culminated in a 1-1 draw with Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final, which we lost on penalties because nobody can score penalties in our squad apparently. Cresswell, the one to actually convert out of borrowing Cresswell and Scamacca. But that just served to annoy us, as then we went through March without conceding a goal, and almost went through April without conceding a goal. Crystal Palace, a surprise package in this year. We'll get to them in a moment. All 5 of the goals of that match happened in the first half. But another draw with Chelsea and 4 more wins without conceding finished off April, including Spurs. Nice bragging rights there. A remarkable 4-1 victory over Man City in May set us on our way again for that particular month, only stumbling really over Liverpool, where Alex Scott remains to be a bit of a genius. 2 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game, equalising us to 2-2 there. All in all, you can see at the top, 3rd in the Premier League, and a Europa Conference League final against Basel. But yes, Eagle Eye viewers will obviously have noticed a few names on those score sheets that we didn't have when I saw you last. I'll start with Kurt Zuma though, because he had a reasonably big offer from Newcastle, which I thought, we'll just bump that up to 55 million. They'll just balk at that. And they went, yeah, sure. So he went for 55 million. And quite frankly, as a person I didn't want personally. As good as he is, you know the reasons. And the centre-back exodus that began with Ogbonna originally concluded with Craig Dawson, who again was out of contract at the end of the year, so it was kind of a case of getting £1 million for him, much like has happened in real life now as well. Went to Leicester here rather than Wolves. We sold Ogbonna to Wolves, weirdly, so wrong centre-back. Just one of those things where he wouldn't be part of the picture next year, would have gone on a free. I'll take £1 million. And those 2 outbounds were replaced with Sole, who did not like big matches when I scouted him originally. I don't like the fact that's there now. But Sole was the first one. I tried a bunch of people. Milenkovic was first on my list and he ended up going to Real Madrid. Annoyingly, but we paid £13 million for Sole. He's got another star's worth of development. You probably have used him at some point, maybe. And whilst I was sad about Milenkovic, I am quite glad I got someone who I haven't used before. And Japhet Tanganga was also available for about $5 million up front. $5.5 million up front. 9.5 if he actually plays games. He won't play games. But he's effectively the Dawson backup replacement. Homegrown, obviously, does like big matches, but he just sort of exists for squad purposes. And similarly existing for squad purposes, although a little bit more competent, is Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who was transfer listed by Leicester. I don't really know why. At 3.5 stars, I think some of that star rating is just because of English nationality, which does factor into that. But he is relatively well-rounded, fairly professional, some great attributes, particularly in kind of stamina and endurance factors, so a good workhorse player, and competent technically and mentally in every other aspect too. It sort of becomes that first-choice fill-in for when we don't have Souček, or we don't have Rice, or even don't have Paqueta, because he does both of those roles perfectly well, particularly the halfback and the box-to-box and centre midfielder attack. He does all of them perfectly fine, and also consistent. So this was an interesting one. Never really expected this one, just sort of on the list and just went, all right then. He is one of a couple of players, though, who I accidentally gave too much wage to, because anyone who's watched me for a while will know about my problems with my double-clicking mouse. It double-clicked, and it automatically accepted 87 grand for him. I tried to get it lower, and it accepted his counter-offer without me intending to. Which also happened with Riddle Baku, who, again, was very much he's available for a reasonable price, in my opinion, kind of deal. But yeah, it ended up double-clicking through on 120 grand a week. I wanted to get him down to about 100. Big game player, again, consistent and versatile, which I think is the majority of his star rating, because actually, attribute-wise, he's not that fantastic. The technicals in particular are reasonably lacking, but good mentally, good physically, and versatile. And we do need someone to take over from Kufal, £24 million up front, and he probably will play games, and I'm just going to end with the one that everyone's basically done this year in the form of Shelder-up, because why the hell not? £8 million, 23 million value. You've probably used him, or at the very least, you've probably seen someone use him. I haven't, so I figured I might as well find out what the fuss is about. He's done quite well so far, 7.27, 3 goals, 5 assists. But genuinely, the big surprise is Alex Scott. He just turns up when I need him to. Obviously, the 2 goals against Liverpool squared that one up. His goal against Brighton was the one that put us in the lead there. He got the equaliser against Arsenal. Unfortunately, then they scored again in that particular game there. He scored the 2 goals that put us ahead at Wolves in the Carabao Cup semi-final after Jimenez had equalised. And he was the person who put us ahead against Southampton in the very beginning as well. Unfortunately, they equalised too. And also got the equaliser, the late equaliser, against Spurs early in the season as well. When he does score, it tends to be important goals, or part of a demolition like the 5-1 against Maribor. But we've got a Conference League final to do, so I'll stop talking now. And unfortunately, registration issues means that we can't actually play most of those because we made a lot of signings in January for a change for me, and I could only put 3 of them in. So I had to prioritise the central defenders, obviously, because that's where the outbounds were as well. So Tanganga, Sole, and Baku were the 3 additions, which means Shelderup and Kieran Dewsbury Hall are not registered for this competition. And an injury to Sole means he's not even available for this final anyway, which now I know he doesn't like big games. Maybe not the biggest problem. The big problem, unfortunately, is the fact that Skamaka is injured for 2 more weeks. Injured in the final day game against Everton because of course he was. 26 goals for him in 47 starts. Not hugely prolific, but it's certainly a lot more than most. 10 goals for Cornet, interestingly, in 16 starts. He's had a lot of substitute appearances, mostly at left-back as well. So it's interesting that he scored a fair amount when he has played as an inside forward. And Alex Scott, as I mentioned, 11 goals in total for him this season in only 27 starts. 24 substitute appearances, adding those up. Jared Bowen with 22 goals in 42 as well. So they're kind of the 3-4 big players, goal-scoring wise. The left side of attack, somewhat lacking. I don't really know why. Fornals with 8 is not bad. 8 in 24 starts, 20 subs. 7 from Benrahma in 21 starts, 17 subs. And Sheldrup, of course, has played there too. He's got 3 in 15 starts and 2 substitutes. So the right side doing a little bit better than the left side, I think, overall. Because Alex Scott's filled in there as well on occasion too. And Antonio, of course. But we are somewhat lacking goals from Kurt Zuma now, as much as I kind of wanted him to go. He was prolific from corners. And Kera, Salazar, and Sole not quite up to the same calibre in that respect. But the injury to Sole does mean that the lineup for this final is Fabianski in goal, Cresswell, Salazar, Kera, Baku, Souček, Rice and Paqueta. I've swapped Souček and Rice around mid-season, and that's now the way around we're doing it. Fornals, Bowen. Fornals weirdly actually still the best inside forward on that side. I don't know if Sheldrup's usurped him yet. He hasn't. And then Antonio up front, because Nino is also not registered for and has never been registered for the Conference League. So we do only have 1 striker. As much as I've tried to rebuild West Ham, certain problems persist. I say this after West Ham in real life have signed Danny Ings and he's immediately got injured. The curse continues, even in digital form. And yeah, we've just filled the bench with the only youth striker we have available to us. He's getting number 23 for this match. Youth intake was actually reasonably good, but that's not the point of this save. None of them will actually develop in time, I think, to make the end of this. That being said, I don't want to, count my chickens ahead of time, but it is Basel. They have Augustine up front. Remember when he was a talent for the future? Because I do. They also have Zakiri, who I'm pretty certain at one point was in the Premier League with Brighton, yeah. Calafiori was a wonder kid of the future. He's still 21, contracted to Basel. 2 stars. I'll see if he actually does still have potential. Won't find out now, I guess, but yeah. Pretty certain he was a prospect last year, yeah, when he was still at Roma. Interesting. But poor Jean-Kevin Augustine, who just isn't a prospect anymore. Because he was loaned to Leeds, wasn't he? Yeah, I remember that. What a sad fall of a wonder kid past. Couldn't even break into Nantes, who ironically we beat to get here anyway. Because I definitely signed him, I think actually FIFA, sort of in the mid-teens FIFAs. Cresswell, Paqueta. Where's Paqueta going? Fornals, tackled, but Paqueta carries on and gets fouled by Lang. Now I think Souček's on penalties and he's not got the greatest record, but he is the best penalty taker, so I'm reluctant to take him off them. I'm going to take them off him. I think his penalty taking is a lie because he has missed a reasonable proportion of penalties. Rice to Bowen. This highlight's continued though. We might still make something of this highlight, weirdly. Rice. I thought I'd gone in. It went behind the netting as it went past. Too late now to change the player. Billy. Souček. Rice. Out to Bowen. Bowen finds Baku. Baku, I think, side foots it. I don't know what he did there. Back heel, side foot. I don't know what that move is called. Cheeky. Come on, lads. We beat Freiburg 5-0 for crying out loud, and they're probably the toughest ones we played. Bowen, all the way out to Cresswell on the other side. Paqueta finds Fornals, and this is looking promising. That's looking slightly less promising. Don't know what Fornals was thinking. Baku back to Rice. Back to Baku. Finds Rice once more. Put this ball across the box, Declan, or miss. Rice almost pulled off the impossible there. Well, if it was impossible, why did he try? And yeah, 1.66 XG, 1.9 XG to 0.005. Let's see where this one's going as we hit 2 XG by halftime with no further highlights. Oh, they actually did have shots on target before that ticked over. I mean, relying on Antonio to score, as much as he's been faithful to West Ham, I'd rather it was Skamaka up there. Calafiore, Zakiri, Malesh. If that went in, good lord. But this is kind of the story of this formation. It is generally quite good at restricting chances. I've been using it on the Pardubice save, which by the time this goes live, we probably would have had at least one, the intro video and maybe the first recap. But we've already played through a bit of that save on stream already. If you've not joined me over there, links in the description for the stream, for the Twitch link. Rice gets the ball off from there, and Antonio does gather the loose ball. Bowen, Baku. But yeah, we're using this formation at Pardubice as well, and it's very good at restricting chances there too, except for when you sort of play teams that are like significantly better, like the Pragues. But Antonio, fouled again. Where's the button? Just give me the button now. If it's a penalty, give me the button now. Let Bowen take it. Look, 33%. Bowen has 2 out of 2. Why has he not changed it? Surely you can't miss 2 penalties in the same match though, Souček. Thank God for that. On the stream save with Pardubice, it took 3 games for an opponent to have a shot on target against us. 3 games. But then Prague turned up and beat us, so Slavia Prague was the first one. But it's the same thing here. You saw, Manchester City demolished and then we demolished them somehow. Struggled against Liverpool until Alex Scott turned up, and I don't know how we've not done more here, quite frankly. I don't even know who to bring on in this situation. Cresswell maybe not great, Emerson on. Maybe it's time for Scott to settle this. Calafiore hoofs it over us entirely. Salazu finds Baku. Salazu, Souček, Fabianski. Hoofed. Only as far as their defence, although that's a loose ball, and Antonio, well, via 4 hours has capitalised. Calafiore, although unfortunately gets that ball, and well, that's once again launched. Baku's got time and space to do something with this. Finds Souček, who hoofs it, but Fornals is under the... Why did Fornals run away from the ball? If they score from this, I'd be furious. Malesh is tackled, but retains possession because Football Manager 2023. Bowen finds Antonio. Oh, he did have a run on the left, but he's gone from there, and what was the point of the highlight, quite frankly? Bowen's tired. That is Cornet. Declan's tired. Lanzini on, and we'll swap him with Scott. 3.5 is the XG here. I mean, 2 penalties are in that. Well, whilst the outcome was somewhat expected, the methodology is ironically frustrating. The only 2 proper chances we saw was from penalties, but there was at least 1.5's worth of XG of chances that went begging. Because I don't think even the penalties register as 1 XG anymore. So we're probably near a 2 XG's worth of chances. Great camera angle, which shows how badly we miss Skamaka when he's not there, I guess. I really want to know the individual XG's of players there. Because these are the 2 penalties. You can see the amount of chances other than that. 25 shots, 6 on target, 11 block shots. That's what happens. That's what happens a lot. Half the shots you take pretty much are blocked. And I don't know why that is such a proportionally ridiculous number. I'd almost rather they miss, because then I can put them in for conversion training. Because I know what's wrong there. Block shots, I don't know if they're on target or not to begin with. But anyway, Silverware. It's just Football Manager being Football Manager. Reasonable bit of money for winning that. 4 million plus sort of 2 million from various revenues and what have you. Medals given out. Did any of the youngsters get medals for this? Yeah, Baptiste did play a game just because I think I ran out of players at one point. And Conor Coventry did play 2 games before I loaned him out. Yeah, Roma won it last year, West Ham won it this year, and frankly, they probably should do very well in it in real life as well. Again, providing there's no big teams that fall out of the Europa League, because it's still the original format where that can happen. I'll still send the assistant to that, I can't be bothered. We've paid out 6.5 million. So we've paid out more than we received. Good work. And 1 million to 2 other clubs because of pre-existing bonuses. Cool. Well, 3 players of ours are the top 3 in the Conference League, season-wise, Bowen, Cornet and Souček. Well done, Bowen. And Fabianski, Kara, Salazu, Rice, and Paqueta. Right, I know that Cornet in the game probably has been given the same spot as Bowen, in the sense that he's been right wing. Well, how does Cornet get second best player but doesn't make it as left back, which he can also play? Or left side? Actually, no, his natural position is left side. I play him on the right because I play inverted. Also, nobody from Basel is in that squad of the season. Nobody. Young boys made the quarters, so that's acceptable. Good old Datro Fofana for Mould is up front. I don't know how far they got. 1 qualifying round. Oh, no, because their seasons are different. They go as far as the first knockout round and were knocked out by Nantes, who did get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. I saw that Villarreal only go as far as the round of 16 because they were the disappointments in the overall overview. They too were knocked out by Nantes. Meanwhile, nobody from Nantes, but someone from their neighbours in, well, French compatriots, Nice, who got as far as the round of 16 as well, but knocked out by Feyenoord. I know this is meant to be about West Ham, but what the hell? Like, the player from Young Boys is the only one that I can sort of accept because they did get to the last 4 as well. They were knocked out by Basel, which I now realise was a Swiss-off. The other 3 players in that Dream 11 didn't get any further than the last 16. One of them didn't get further than the last 32, or whatever the round before is. I suppose it's another round of 16, but with different players. I swear there's a page that tells you individual XGs, but you can see the array of shots that we had. And only 3 people actually achieved shots on target, and one of them was a central defender, presumably from corners. One of them was Tuchek with 1 out of his 3 penalties and 2 other shots on target somewhere along the way. And Fornals had 3 shots on target, or 2 shots on target out of 3 as well. So that was it. The rest were blocked or missed. I'm sure I'll remember where the XG page is after this, but never mind. There's the season review. That's what I've been waiting for. There's all the signings, including pre-existing ones, of course, in the form of Skamaka. Don't know what I'm going to do about Aguerd because he's been utterly mutilated in the game, so he's not worth anywhere near... He's worth 1 million to 2.4 when they've signed him for 26 million in real life, and he's obviously a lot better than this. I know he's got a big injury, but he's obviously a lot better than 2 million. I've got a B for being 3rd in Conference League winners, although there might be separate events. Yeah, separate ratings. I got a B- for reaching the final. Actually, beating Freiburg 5-0 was the biggest one of the entire lot. Did score 4 goals after they had man sent off, and beating Chelsea away from home was the big one. Not beating Manchester City 4-1 away from home, that's not the match to remember. Local rivalry matters more. Nothing to compare that to. And interestingly, Alex Scott beats Paqueta to the team of the season. Everyone else is kind of as expected, even the outbound Zuma sneaks in with 16 appearances solely. I think only made 13. Now that we've got Champions League, what do they actually want? Be competitive, top half finish. Sure. And yet I still only got a B for being 3rd. Always just say what they want. A loan offer for Baptiste straight off the bat. Sure. But I'll also let you know the 2 guaranteed transfers before I wrap this video off. The idea is we're going to do this for about 3 seasons and just see what we can achieve in those 3 seasons. Bayernde is a free agent. We nabbed him. Even if we don't play him, he's going to be worth money. I like his key attributes, quite frankly. Aerial reach, handling, one-on-ones, reflexes, agility, jumping reach, all superb. All the key attributes that I look for in a goalkeeper. The command communication, other kind of sweepery things, somewhat lacking, but a great shot stopper, and obviously Fabianski's not getting any younger, and Areola's on stupid money. So if I could get rid of both of them, great. It feels a little bit awkward for Fabianski because he did get Golden Glove, but he's also 38, and I don't know how long these are going to hold out. And whilst I didn't see it come through, it must have actually gone through. He is contracted to us. Even weirder for a Crystal Palace team that finished 5th in the end, we managed to make a pre-arranged deal for the end of the season for Tyrick Mitchell of 19 million. 15 million up front. Again, similar situation. Cresswell's not getting any younger. Needed someone to sort of fill in there who also counted as homegrown nation. So, felt sensible. You know, sort of a like replacement for Cresswell, who also isn't getting any younger and doesn't cost an absolute fortune like Luke Thomas does. But yeah, Cresswell, what physicals he has, I'm concerned won't survive too much longer. He is contracted till the end of next season. We'll probably look to shift Emerson on, who's on ridiculous money, and just have Cresswell as backup next year. But those are the 2 transfers that are already arranged for next year, so I figured I'd leave you with those and leave you on the page that shows you the full table from the end of last season. Yeah, Palace 5th. They came very close to being in the top 4, but then kind of faded in the last month. And you can't see it above my head, but yes, Fabianski had 18 clean sheets to Ederson's 17 and Mendy's 16. Cresswell also the 2nd highest assister in the league. It makes me feel bad about trying to replace them. Fornals with the most tackles per 90 minutes because the game's broken. That's a huge issue with Football Manager. That's been, at least in the last year, it's something I noticed last year and called out quite a lot last year, is the fact that your wingers will actually be the highest tacklers somehow, regardless of what their tackling stat is, the attribute is, sorry. And whilst Fornals has 14 tackling, which is kind of weird, 2nd, 4.27 tackles per game, effectively, for Harvey Barnes, 7 tackling. I'm intrigued to know, actually, who's on this list going further down. Bailey, Almiron, who's probably actually got reasonable tackling, knowing Almiron, 10. Okay, that probably ought to be slightly better. Bailey, 7 tackling. Saka should have good tackling because he was a fullback once upon a time. Only 10. Guedes, 7 tackling. Traore, 7 tackling. Dwight McNeil's is weirdly 12. Gordon's is oddly 11 as well. Luis Sinistera is 12th on the tackles per 90. He's got 4 tackling. It's a problem. And Jared Bowen actually makes the list as well as my other winger, 8 tackling. You'll find the tackles per 90 is pretty much populated by wingers and fullbacks. The only sort of vaguely sensible tackler that's made this list is Alex Scott, and he was a rotation option. There's no central defenders, no midfielders, apart from Alex Scott, central midfielders. You know, the people that actually tend to make the tackles in football. But that's a system issue. That's nothing to do with West Ham. It is also what makes me believe that the tackling attribute in Football Manager is utterly worthless. Much in the same way that some people believe the finishing attribute doesn't really factor in that much when it comes to strikers, I am kind of the belief the tackling attribute doesn't really mean much when you see these kind of statistics. When people with 4, 7, tackling attributes are making the most tackles per 90. I'll see you for Season 2. We'll join you in January. That's how it's going to work. It's just going to be a January update, summer update, January update, summer update, little mini-series over. We'll probably alternate rebuilds with experiments, and then of course we'll have the recaps for the FK Party B say stream save, along with perhaps some other little things to fill in gaps if necessary. I'm not going to go into it too much because I want to record them first before I actually say what that is, but thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this, do like, comment, subscribe, and if you want to see more, then let me know. And who to rebuild with. I said it last time, but I'd quite like to do one outside of England next time. Thank you for joining me. Ta-ra.